Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sustainable Innovation for Interiors. I'm Sylvia from D4Design, interior design and content creation studio with a focus on biophilic design and sustainability in the interior design industry. In this series, we are meeting emerging designers that are developing new solutions for sustainable interiors, and today we are meeting James Haywood, so let's welcome James.
Hi everyone. Hi
Hi,
Sylvia. I'm James.
hi, thanks for being here. All right. So I would say we can start with maybe a little introduction about you as a designer and how you chose to put sustainability at the heart of what you do.
Sure. I actually became a designer overnight about a year ago during COVID because I came upon an article about the impact of traditional concrete on the environment. And the article also mentioned alternatives that weren't half as bad. And I thought, hey, maybe it could be fun to design something of quality using only materials that are waste from other industries. And that's how the project came about. And then I had fun doing it. So now it's become my kind of full-time occupation.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, that's such a cool story to start with. Wow. All
Yeah,
right.
before that, I don't know if it interests anybody, but for those who are watching who are doing, working in an office, that's what I did for most of my life.
Yeah,
I'm an
that's what I
engineer
did.
by
Yeah, that's
training.
my story too. Before becoming a designer, I also worked in an office and
There
I
you
am
go.
in economics. So I come from a totally different background. So yeah, that's how life goes, right?
Exactly. I think a lot of the designers that I meet also have a similar story where
Yeah.
something happened and they quit their job and life is better.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm a big proponent for doing something that you like. So even if it's not your first bet, it's never too late to change. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So next question would be more of a general one because sustainability is such a wide topic, and I always like to ask, what does the word sustainability mean to you in particular?
Sure. It's a good question. The word sustainability, I try to stay away from all these words, sustainability, green, eco this, eco that. Um, they're words that tend to lose their meanings. And I think the textbook definition of sustainability is to live in the present without compromising the lives of future generations.
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry, meet the needs of the
Of
present
today without, yeah,
without
compromising. Yeah, true.
and I think we've already compromised it. Everyone agrees that we have. So I think it can no longer be about having zero negative impact. It has to be about having a positive impact.
Yeah.
Um, and also most of the time when you consider the full life cycle of a product, you realize that it's never really completely sustainable. It's never zero negative impact.
Sure.
So you really need to be doing something positive. For this project, it's of course not it's of course not zero emissions. I make stuff and I sell it.
Yeah.
Anybody who does that has an impact. And I guess the positive impact that I try to do is to get people talking about these materials and
Yeah.
talking about the impact of building a house and how else they could do it that would be less harmful to the environment. And just getting these conversations going around not just bioconcrete, but around all these materials that we use.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So just connecting to what you just said, let's talk about your project, which is a collection of lights, options like the ones that you've got behind you, that
Yeah,
are made with either waste or eco-friendly in some way materials. So maybe you can walk us through the project a little bit.
sure. Yeah. So I use 3D printing to build lamps. Why lamps? I don't know. It's what I came to do when I started experimenting. I'd never worked with my hands before, so
Okay.
it was a process of making stuff with my hands and then experimenting with 3D printers and now I've kind of found my recipe for these lamps that I make.
Yeah.
They're all unique, so I never make the same lamp twice.
All right.
And they're made predominantly from a mix of concrete, which is not traditional concrete. So traditional concrete is made with cement,
Yeah.
which accounts for most of its carbon footprint. And just to give you an idea, concrete on this planet is about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. There's very nefarious gases that come from making cement. And there's alternatives. In particular, the one that I use is fly ash. It's slag. It's the stuff that is a byproduct of making steel or any metal, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact.
Yeah.
And you can replace a lot of the cement in concrete with that. And then for everything else, for the cable, I use recycled cotton from the recycled the clothing bins. Whenever there's clothing that we put in the bins that are too worn for people to wear, they make them into stuff like cables, which is great. And I use recycled plastic for the molds, which is from single-use bottles.
All right.
I also use cow hides for the base, and I use also natural bamboo for the plugs that are also 3D printed,
All right.
and for the remote that is 3D printed. I actually don't have one right here, but it's this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what you put the bulb in.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, I try whenever I have to have something in that lamp as part of that lamp, even the packaging also. I try to think what's the least harmful way that I could do this.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the way that we should be thinking more. And also I use Philips light bulbs because there's nothing else.
Yeah.
But at the very least, they last 15 to 20 years. So, and they're LEDs, so they don't consume that much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool that you have such a wide, like awareness and also interest in trying to minimize the impact of, as you said, there's an impact, of course, because you're making stuff. But yeah, at least if everyone were thinking like trying to reduce the impact of whatever we do, we would be in a totally different position right now. So that's definitely interesting. And speaking about your concrete, that, as you said, is not made out of cement, but it's made out of slag. In terms of technical features, would that be suitable for the construction industry as well? Is it as strong as the regular concrete, let's say?
Yeah, no, absolutely it is. It's stronger.
Oh,
It's, well, actually mixing it, doing about 50% slag, 50% cement,
all right.
gives us a stronger material.
All right.
It just takes longer to set. So, and I guess operationally speaking, it's a little bit more complicated to use.
All right.
But funny enough, it's also cheaper because it's waste from an industry that's trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So it absolutely is an option. We don't think of it enough because different reasons. It's just more complicated to mix two things and to wait longer for it to set. And the lobbies, I guess, are.
Yeah, I also think it's just not, a lot of people just don't know of the existence of this thing. They just know that concrete is made out of cement and that's it. They don't even know the existence of an alternative. So
Exactly.
what's most important in this sense, because it's spreading awareness that there's an alternative out there. And how about the end of life? Can you take it apart somehow and then reuse it?
So that's what I tend to do as well.
All right.
But again, to break cement down, to break concrete down, it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I always wonder when they, replace the road in front of my house, whereas it's, it was practically new. I always think, what a waste.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess in the future it definitely could be. I actually don't know what they're doing with the old road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So how do you source your raw materials, because not everyone is used to the idea of repurposing waste. So I'm always curious how things go when a designer like you approaches someone asking for waste. So where do you take the waste? For example, the slag that you said. Do you go to metal manufacturers asking for waste?
Not even. It's widely available. I mean, this stuff has been
Really?
used for decades.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, it has been used a lot. It's very easy to find,
All right. So it's
and
normal for manufacturers to sell their waste in this sense?
I'm not sure about that end of the life cycle and what happens there and who sells what and who makes money doing what. But I mean, this you may have heard of the this. I think they're called slag hills or slag
Mhm.
piles. They're
Yes.
huge kind of hills
All
of
right.
this stuff. So it just sits there.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah,
you and take it.
I guess so. And I mean, it's just a matter of going on Google and typing the stuff. Same with the cables, same with everything that I use. It was a
Yeah.
Google search. It's not rocket science. Stuff is out there. Most things,
Also, yeah.
that's the good news is that most things have already been done or they're being done now. And there's tons of other alternatives to concrete that are also in the making and
Yeah.
that are also possible to find online. They're less suitable for what I do, but they might be more suitable for something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also an interesting point when you say like everything is available just with a Google search. It's just to say that it's not that hard to switch if we want to, right? To find more sustainable options. So it's really a matter of wanting to do it and making a research. It's not even rocket science. So it's
Exactly.
all for everyone to, yeah, to just try to do our best.
Yeah, it's just one more word that you have to put in front of your Google search.
Exactly, exactly. It's not that hard. That's cool. That's a good thing. Just one more word for such a big result.
Mm.
Yeah. So, on your website, your products in general are available both for sale and for rent, which is a great option in terms of the environment and the impact of an object, but it's not yet so common in the design industry. So I was wondering, how was the option of renting like welcomed by your public? Did everybody understand it and in the first place? Did you find interest? How was it welcomed?
Yeah, it came from my public. It came from the conversations that I had with clients who I just found that practically 100% of the people that reached out to me to buy a lamp were hesitating and they couldn't, they struggled to pick a favorite. And so I thought, hey, well, if we live nearby, perhaps we can, have some sort of a deal where you can exchange it whenever you like. I actually don't think it's more eco-friendly because,
Yeah, depending
you
on
know,
how long you take it.
transporting.
Yeah.
But in my neighborhood in London, it works okay. But then I still find that it's maybe a little bit ahead of the curve.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think most people want to have their own lamp. They get attached to it. It's this kind of physical thing that yeah they get attached to it. So the few people that have rented a lamp ended up buying it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So yeah, I also think that, as right now, it's not yet that common for individuals, and it's more maybe common for commercial or maybe for events that you rent furniture and all sorts of furnishings for the event and then you send it back. But yeah, for individual choices, it's not yet common. But I do think it makes sense because, depending on what you're trying to get and where you live and how long you plan to stay into that place, it might be more handy and even more environmentally conscious to send something back to a manufacturer that is nearby rather than bringing it the other side of the ocean if you're moving. So I really think it's just one more option that might try to think about when we choose what to do with our homes and things. But yeah, maybe for individuals it will take a little longer to yeah.
I think it's mostly a matter of people like to switch things up every once in a while, and they have to um, if you look around, in your living room, you might see things and you might think, why did I buy this? Because I was a different person back then, and my tastes have changed. And
Yeah,
that's kind of the rationale behind doing this.
true.
Then again, I think maybe with these kind of pieces, people like to just keep them,
Yeah, exactly.
as of now anyway.
Yeah, which is a good thing for you, right? Because it means that it's very appreciated. So that's good.
It's good for
Now that
me.
I look at your lamp, like behind you, I was wondering, where did you take the inspiration for the shape? Because it's a very nice shape and very uncommon, for a lamp. They all have
Yeah,
this face and this big thing.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask because I have no answer.
Oh, okay.
No, I guess I you know I studied engineering, but I didn't study design, and I think not that there's anything wrong with studying design, but at least not studying design, I didn't come in with any kind of preconception of what a lamp should look like, and these forms are very organic, and
Yes.
they're things that I think of. I don't know, it might be a shape that I saw 2 years ago, and then I see another shape, and the two start making sense, and then starts making sense with a third shape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then it
it's
just
just very random.
Yeah, no, but I like the idea because as you said, I mean, sometimes when you study something, it's yes, you're more prepared, you have more background, but you also have a lot more preconcepts. So if you don't study that, you just go more intuitively, and you can come up with very uncommon things that are just like as beautiful as what a lamp should look like, because they're really not what a lamp should look like. I mean, at
Yeah,
least
and maybe if I had studied design, then I would know of several people that have come up with the same creative process, but I didn't. So no.
No, but that's an uncommon shape, I would say, and it's beautiful too. So it's
Thanks.
good that I asked, because it has shone a light on something interesting. All right, so now quoting from your website, you say, for the majority of designers, the environmental and societal impact of a product is not a primary concern. For me, it is. So when I read this sentence, I was like, of course, that's a great thing. And I was wondering to ask you this kind of provocative question in a little bit, which is, why do you think it's not a priority as it's not been a priority for so long? What do you think has stopped the
Well, I
interest?
think it's maybe a two-part answer. It's maybe a generational thing.
All right.
Um, the generations before us didn't necessarily need to think about sustainability and the environmental sense of it,
Yeah.
and the economic of making something was always the primary concern. I design because I need to pay my bills and because I have kids to raise, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it still is a little bit like this. We spoke about sustainability earlier, the meaning of the word sustainability, and I think sustainability is across human, social, environmental, and economic aspects. And we really tend to put economics first. And actually, if you Google it, I think economics is always first.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't tick the boxes for the first three, there's no point doing it. There's just no point. And I think we go back to this generational thing. If you ask people our age or younger, they will probably agree with that. But it does take a generation to flip that switch.
Yeah. That's true. That's
And
true.
at the end of the day, I I didn't do much research before making lamps, but I did go to a few shops that sell lamps and designer lamps and things like that. And I'm appalled just to see the it's not even about quality. It's just a completely different conversation. It's about, they're clearly using the cheapest thing. They're clearly using the
I
cheapest
agree.
little plastic switch that they get off Amazon or Alibaba or whatever. And it clearly looks like they're selling 1,200 pound lamps out of 1 pound material that they made. And I guess part of it is also that there's so many intermediaries in the design world.
Sure.
The designer rarely sells their own stuff on their website like I do,
Yeah.
so they have to account for the piece of the pie that everybody takes on the way there, and
Yeah.
probably they're not making much.
True. Yeah. So true. And so, yeah, taking from this point that you just raised, as you said, I mean, sustainability is generally three pillars: is the economic, the environmental, and the societal. So in your personal in your personal experience, did you find it any harder to take care of the environmental and societal aspect? Did it make it any harder to achieve the economic side of it, since the discussion is a lot about this, being able to achieve
For sure. For me, the process was the other way around. It was, and when I Google for a material, I don't Google cement. I Google alternatives to cement, and so I don't even know how much my stuff would cost to make if I used,
yeah.
if I designed based on economics only. I'm not quite sure. So my creative process was more coming up with the process and then seeing, how much can I sell this for? Can I make a living selling this? And
Yeah.
if I couldn't, then I would be doing something else.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It is. Yeah. This is the interesting thing, right? Sometimes things are simpler than you think, right?
And
But
also
as
it's
you
a bit of
said,
a challenge. It's a bit
yeah.
of a challenge because I feel like within this sustainability world or ecosystem, there's so many more options than in the just cement world.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
and so it's more challenging, it's more fulfilling to try more different things and pick the one that's most appropriate. For me, it's been a really fun process doing that. And I wouldn't have wanted to do this if it was just about making money. Of course, I like money. I mean, I like to live.
Yeah, of course.
And we need to play the game as of 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's true. There's an entire world behind this sustainability universe, and there's a lot to play, as you say. Yeah. So my next question, maybe you answered already a little. I was going to ask, how did COVID change your plans? But
Mm.
for you, it was like a massive change because you became a designer because of COVID, right? But how did it work? Because was it like maybe due to restrictions and stuff, you took time to think, or how did it come about to change your life completely?
Yeah, it was a big change. Before COVID, I had a food startup.
Okay.
So it's a completely different area. I tried to bring exposure to upcoming chefs by organizing like 15 course
All right.
tasting dinners and inviting people from the industry.
Cool.
Um, and it, a few bits kind of came together, and then COVID was kind of the final blow. And I decided, hey, I'm going to take a step back and
All right.
um, and and for a while I got really into coding.
All right.
Just a really random thing, but I thought, hey, this is cool. Um, and then on the side, to take breaks from the screen, I would play with my hands and make stuff, and I just thought it was really interesting. And that's when I found this article about the impact of concrete, and it just all came together in my head. I thought, hey, I really need to pick something and design it. And I was really lucky to have this opportunity to take some time and not just run after a paycheck for a couple of months, and
Absolutely.
that's how the idea came about. So
That's
yeah, COVID was a major thing for me. I hesitate to say it because I know it's been
yeah.
such a hard time for so many people, but I'm one of the lucky few, I think,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also the very rich.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to say, of course, no one is denying the gravity of the situation by no chance, but big challenges are also big opportunities if we have the chance and if we want to look at them this way. So this is why I always ask this question to everyone, because
Mm,
everyone has, in a way or another, said something beautiful out of this forced,
I couldn't agree more.
so yeah,
And
it's really, yeah, go
I
ahead.
also think in the way that I see people consuming stuff, I think it's changed a lot. We're much more conscious of what we buy, the food that we buy, but also anything that we buy.
Yeah,
Where was it produced? What was the impact of that? Was it designed by children or put together
yeah,
by children? Uh, and I think we've gone a huge step forward. I don't know if the step forward has been big enough to offset the step back. But I think the step back has been mostly an economics aspect,
Yeah.
and even in that sense, the French scientist Jean-Marc Jancovici said that this 2 or 3% reduction in global GDP that we had because of COVID is what we need every year for the next, I actually can't remember, 20 years.
All right.
In order to be in line with the Paris Agreement objectives.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still a long way off.
Yeah, but that's still even more interesting because we have to make it work with this much reduction, So this was maybe just the appetizers of what we have to work with the coming years. So that's so interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think change always comes with a big, kick in the. Change doesn't come when everything is going okay. So as sad as it is, we need these events to remember what matters.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's so true. Yeah. And so going on the lines of this thought, the world we live in is in a challenging situation, and we need sustainable development in every field. So in your opinion, what could speed up the change in the design industry or make the change easier?
I want to say policy because my girlfriend works in policy.
So you're just delegating.
No, I do think policy does a great job, but I think the pace of change has overtaken the pace of policy making, and it's just a lot of the time it's too light-handed and too late, and and I think right now the only real big change that is happening actually is consumer-led change. So people actually deciding, I'm not going to buy crap that I'm going to need to buy again in 2 years.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to buy once. That's a saying that I really like. Is when you buy something, think, are you still going to have this and enjoy it 50 years from now? And if the answer is no, then don't buy it. And I know it's a very difficult thing to say to people that are struggling to survive.
Yeah, it is.
But in the design industry, there's just no excuse.
That's
in my opinion. Sorry.
No, but that's very true, and I still agree. Because yeah, it's something that we are definitely not used to in our current consumerist society, but this is really the right question to ask, right? So, and it makes such a difference. And yeah, and I also agree in bottom up change, because sometimes, as you said, the up down is very, very slow and it comes just in bite-sized pieces, whereas now we need a massive change, and it's happening from the bottom up, which is in a way even more rewarding. So
yeah, I think it comes from everywhere. It just comes differently from different pieces. And if it was only consumers, the change wouldn't happen. If it was only policy, it wouldn't happen. If it was only the big companies, it wouldn't happen either. Or maybe it would. But
yeah,
I do think we're past the time of saying it should be this guy doing the effort because they're the ones polluting. We all have a part to play.
we are all in the same bowl, right? We are all living in
Yeah.
All right. So next and last question, actually, because we are out of time. Just to close up, your maybe next steps in your journey. If you have something to share with us, if you have something in the pipeline for the next months, years that you can share.
It's difficult for me to see a month ahead.
All right.
But I mean, this is still quite new. I still, I live on a very kind of short-term basis.
Yeah.
Personally.
All right.
I would like to see more designers team up and use each other's waste as raw materials, and I would like to see a platform that makes this possible. And that's maybe one of the things I have in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But in the next months, maybe not in the next years, probably.
takes a while.
or maybe I'll have a different idea. But I would really like to see more collaboration.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I reach out to a lot of designers, and they're always a little surprised. They're like, "Well, you're my competitor." I'm like, "Well, not
Okay,
really."
yeah, it's the two ways of doing it, right? There are people like you that
Yeah,
see the value of collaboration, and others that are like, "What are you asking? Are you trying to
yeah.
steal my secrets or what?"
But
Yeah,
I think they see it. They see it. They just need to open up to it a little bit.
yeah,
And I think and what I love is also speaking to designers that are not designing with sustainability, environmental sustainability in mind,
okay,
and to actually speak with them and to see how they can improve their processes. And that's a very fulfilling thing to do for me. So I encourage other designers to have these conversations.
which is great. So, well, thank you for what you do, because it's
Mm.
very, very important to start conversations about these topics. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for what you do. I mean, you're the one broadcasting it, so
Thanks.
it's your job.
All right. So thanks so much for having been with me. It's been such a cool conversation. Good luck for everything in your future, because it's a great beginning. I mean, if that's your beginning, oh my God, I want to see what's going to come next.
Ah, thanks.
That's a good one. All right. So this was the last episode of Sustainable Innovation for Interiors. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining this episode and all the others. You can see all the past episodes on YouTube, on Isola TV as well. And yeah, I will see you in the next season. Why not? And in the meantime, I will see you in Milan, in Milan Design Week in September. So until then, take care, stay safe, and thanks, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you, James, for being with me.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.